Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is very good. So yesterday we talked about the session that I ran this weekend. Well, two sessions that I ran this weekend for my kid, and how we kind of did things a little differently than when we played D&D. The last time we played D&D, I made all of these little tokens so that we could draw maps, have little dudes on a map. I made tokens for characters, cool artwork for the characters. My kid drew her own artwork. That's fun. And I made monster tokens. And so when we got into encounters, I had figured out that we needed this many goblin skirmishers. We needed this many goblin archers or whatever. So I put together these tokens and drew maps, which meant that when we got to a place where we needed to have a combat, where we needed to talk about positioning, we would have to pause the game. I'd have to get these tokens out. I'd have to find the ones that we need. I'd have to, draw the map and play. And my kids didn't enjoy that. And the game that we've been playing, Dungeon World, is not really, there's no rules in it for this kind of play. There's rules in it for distance, so you have like hand, close, near, far, or something like that, or an out of range. But there's no rules for, all right, you can move X number of feet this way, X number of feet that way. And when I played D&D as a kid, we didn't use maps. I wasn't young enough. I don't think I played first edition D&D. I think I only ever played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, there was definitely movement rules. There was definitely like enough rules that you could put together a tabletop skirmish, a miniature skirmish. But I don't remember doing that. I always remembered just playing in our heads. And I can remember sitting as a player. Some of this was with solo games, but also playing when somebody was GMing. I would be with hex paper drawing the dungeon map as we were going through it, so I could figure out where we were. So I don't think we ever had. I definitely never had miniatures. Maybe I did later, like in my later teens. I might have got little miniatures and painted them. But it was just like an avatar. It was just like, here I am. And maybe we would vaguely use them to say, all right, you're here. There's something over here, whatever. But it wasn't like, all right, I get my ruler out and figure things out. When we played 5th edition, it very much was get your ruler out or have a inch-based grid so that you can do this grid-based movement. And my kids didn't enjoy that. So playing Dungeon World, when we got to the first combat, like I said, we made this tomb. If you didn't watch yesterday, I made up this dungeon on the fly. I said, "Here's a door. Why are we here?" My kid said, "We're here because I've heard rumors that there's this super rare potion ingredient in here, and I want to try to find it so I can take it back to my village and show off." And I said, "Okay." And so I threw together this very quick little dungeon where you're going down into this hillside. It's just a tomb, so it's like an antechamber and then the main chamber. And in the antechamber, there was some Ekeks, some bird people had taken it over. And they had a little fire there, and they were eating fish and talking or whatever. And my kid, so I started, and she's like, "So are we going to draw the map?" And I was like, "No, we're just gonna go with it." And it was funny because I thought that when we did this D&D style, when we did this basically miniatures game with these little wooden tokens that I made, I thought that they got really bored with this and they were not interested in this at all. But then she seemed like kind of disappointed that we didn't draw a map, we didn't use a map. I said, we can draw out the layout if you want, and we can kind of talk about it. And so what happened was we ended up doing the fight. I think the first fight, she kind of got into it a little bit, but she was confused about where people were standing and whatnot. But it was just the theater of the mind, right? Like that old school thought process of let's just talk through this narratively, and then we'll match what happens in the narrative to dice rolls and damage, right? I had a blast doing it. I don't know that she did, honestly. I feel like she wanted something to anchor, okay, I don't understand where things are. And definitely when we played Sunday, we were playing in the dark, and there was no, not, we weren't in the dark. Our characters were in the dark. There was a fire in a very misty thing. She was really confused about where things were. There was no reference. I couldn't say by the door. There was no door. We're just in the pitch blackness, right, with a fire in between us. And so I think that next time I will maybe still not draw maps, but maybe I will have, a few tokens to represent, here's a fire, here's you, here's me. Like, where are you going to go? So she can just be like, I'm going to go this way, right? And it can all be very arbitrary. It can all be very, I don't want to say made up. I mean, it's all made up, right? It can all be, it doesn't need to be anything strict. I don't want to play a board game. I think that I still feel like I don't think that the board game aspect of 5th edition was a good fit for my kids, but I also don't feel that this completely freeform, just think about it, was a good fit either. I think there definitely needs to be some sort of anchoring, some sort of, this is who you are, this is who I am, this is the major obstacles in this area. And maybe it is. Maybe I do get out the battle mat. I have one. I could just draw the room real quick, and we don't really use it to take measurements or determine anything other than where things are in relation to each other. I think that was the part that was really missing, was where am I in relation to the fire? Where am I in relation to the bodies that are on the ground? That sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm just going to keep experimenting with it. She's not here this week. I had her last. I'll have her again next week, and I think we'll try to play some more. And figure out where that goes. But this was an interesting thing for me because, again, I thought this was her least favorite part 3 years ago. I think there needs to be a middle ground. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is subsistence. It is an noun meaning the minimum of food, water, clothing, shelter, and money a person or family needs to survive. All we need for subsistence is the basics, the finest of everything. Subsistence. S-U-B-S-I-S-T-E-N-C-E. Does that, is subsistence living, does that, in America, like, when I think of that, I think of elderly people living in a home. Is that true for you?